I will get it built.
He is a racist, he is a con man, and he is a cheat.
Could you charge the president with a crime after he left office?
Yes.
Trump starts his third year in the White House with the government starting a second month in shutdown.
Did you see where Biden wants to take me to the back of the barn? Me.
Donald Trump's third year as President of the United States of America was one of his most significant. From the Mueller probe to his first impeachment, friends became enemies.
How many times did Mr. Trump ask you to threaten an individual? 100 times?
More.
200 times?
More.
500 times?
Probably.
From the demise of Epstein to the uprising of Biden, it was a tumultuous year, and the way it began truly set the tone.
From this day forward, a new vision will govern our land.
Donald Trump marking 2 years in the top job with a montage.
We will bring back our borders. We will bring back our wealth.
As almost 1 million workers are wondering when they'll bring back their paychecks. Trump starts his third year in the White House with the government starting a second month in shutdown. His latest bid to end it already hitting a wall.
It's outrageous, and he's just playing politics, and this is a bad deal.
Giving illegal child immigrants an extra 3 years legal protection in return for the border wall billions.
It's not from sea to sea. It's 234 miles of additional steel barrier.
On social media, the president fumed. Democrats turned him down before he even spoke, accusing Speaker Nancy Pelosi of being irrational.
It is a purely partisan game she's playing, and she ought to stop it for the good of the nation.
The president accused of holding workers hostage.
If the president can arbitrarily shut down the government now, he will do it time and again.
And I will never, ever let you down.
The halfway mark of his term greeted by this front cover, The Atlantic magazine brought forward its March issue, a reminder the next 2 years could be just as dramatic.
A prime-time presidential address.
The President of the United States!
Shelved 6 days out.
The State of the Union speech has been cancelled by Nancy Pelosi because she doesn't want to hear the truth. She doesn't want the American public to hear what's going on, and she's afraid of the truth.
Trump saying he's unsurprised, though seething.
I think that's a great blotch on the incredible country that we all love.
They first traded taunts through letters, the president ignoring Pelosi's request to delay the speech until the 33-day government shutdown ended, insisting today his address would be on time, on schedule, and very importantly, on location. Her response, a first in American history, rescinding the invitation.
Let's work together on a mutually agreeable date when we can welcome you to the Capitol together with a State of the Union address.
Watching the stalemate from the sidelines, 800,000 federal workers about to miss a second paycheck. Donald Trump's address wasn't the only one put on ice today. His former fixer, Michael Cohen, also pulled out of his highly anticipated testimony before Congress, blaming threats from the president.
I would say he's been threatened by the truth. He's only been threatened by the truth.
Time for Cohen to tell his truth publicly running out as he prepares to serve a lengthy prison sentence come March. Emerging from the White House.
Thank you very much.
For a surprise retreat.
I am very proud to announce today that we have reached a deal to end the shutdown and reopen the federal government.
That deal will fund the government for just another 3 weeks, exactly what the Democrats were demanding from day one.
Hopefully now the president has learned his lesson.
Still no money for the wall, but hope for 800,000 federal workers who just missed their second paycheck. A presidential backdown slammed by some of Trump's most loyal supporters, who went as far as calling him a wimp. If the president doesn't reach a long-term deal with the Democrats to fund his border wall next month, he's already signalled he could shut down the government again or bypass Congress altogether.
To address this emergency.
A breakthrough on one crisis as another unfolded today. with the dramatic arrest of the president's longtime ally, Roger Stone. The defiant former Nixon staffer, another scalp for special counsel Robert Mueller.
I believe this is a politically motivated investigation.
One day, 2 West Wing dramas still to play out in court and on Capitol Hill. The speech was already a week late, and Donald Trump was in a hurry.
And my fellow Americans,
Not waiting for the customary speaker's introduction as he delivered his second State of the Union address.
the state of our union is strong.
It was his first to a divided Congress in what's now Nancy Pelosi's House.
Victory is not winning for our party. Victory is winning for our country.
The president acknowledging a sea of white.
You weren't supposed to do that.
A record number of women.
Don't sit yet. You're going to like this.
Making their presence known.
More women serving in Congress than at any time before.
Also congratulating young heroes, war heroes and survivors. The speech postponed due to a government shutdown, delivered with another one looming.
Congress has 10 days left to pass a bill that will fund our government.
The president again calling for funding for his border wall.
I will get it built.
Donald Trump also used tonight's address to confirm a second meeting with Kim Jong-un, saying if he hadn't been elected president, the US would now be at war with North Korea.
Much work remains to be done, but my relationship with Kim Jong-un is a good one.
The work will continue in Vietnam in just 3 weeks' time. On a mission to the border to build support for his signature wall.
Thank you very much, El Paso.
Donald Trump's first campaign rally of the year in a city at the heart of an immigration debate dividing America.
Safety is the birthright of every American, which is why we must finish the wall.
A hot-button issue fueling protests and the Democrats taking the stage in his hometown, meters from the president's platform, a potential 2020 opponent.
Safe, not because of walls, but in spite of walls. Secure, because we treat one another with dignity and respect. That is the way that we make our communities and our country safe.
Back in Washington, the focus was keeping the country open, and late tonight, signs the standoff over immigration could finally be over. Both parties reaching a deal in principle, they say, that will avoid another government shutdown this week. The deal, $1.94 billion for border security, short of the president's request for $8 billion, and it'll be him with the final say and signature.
You can't always get what you want.
I'm not happy.
Donald Trump had kept Washington guessing for days. Will he or won't he sign a deal to avoid another shutdown? It offered just a quarter of the funds he demanded for a border barrier. And as politicians were about to vote, the presidential bombshell dropped.
He's prepared to sign the bill. He will also be issuing a national emergency declaration at the same time.
His long-threatened move using emergency powers to take funding from, likely, the military to build his wall, bypassing Congress.
The President of the United States has the absolute authority.
But fellow Republicans had been warning against it.
Yeah, I think it would be a terrible idea. I hope he doesn't do it.
Democrats called it an abuse of power, that there is no emergency.
If the president can declare an emergency on something that he has created as an emergency, an illusion that he wants to convey, just think of what a president with different values can present to the American people.
A national emergency to build the wall is already facing its own barriers, with opponents promising to challenge it in Congress and the courts. As the long road to avert another shutdown ends, a new battle begins.
Early in 2019, Donald Trump would again meet with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, fostering what he declared to be a very special relationship. While Trump was making new friends with dictators, he had very much lost his old friend and fixer for good. In March of 2019, history was made. Bob Mueller handed down his report on Russian interference in the 2016 election. It was a seismic moment in American political history.
Once mortal enemies, today so-called partners in peace and prosperity.
That's great. Big friendship.
The US and Vietnam preparing for the Trump-Kim Summit 2.0.
We have a very big dinner tonight, as you know, and meetings with North Korea and Chairman Kim.
Trump arrived to a full ceremonial welcome overnight, quite the contrast to Chairman Kim's train transport, Air Force One versus the Hanoi Express. The brutal chain-smoking dictator caught en route, having a cigarette stop. Today, he was more low-key, indoors and preparing for the talks. They're scheduled to meet and dine here tonight, the famed Metropole Hotel.
No picture, camera here.
No pictures here at all?
No picture,
Okay.
camera here, okay?
Where the army has locked down surrounding streets. Security was tight around Mr. Kim too, his bodyguards at times struggling to keep up. So there goes Kim Jong-un's convoy, high visibility, even higher security, all marked by the same sense of theatre and pageantry that we saw at the Singapore summit. But the critics are asking the question now, can this meeting achieve more than a photo opportunity? It's been 8 months since Singapore.
So we're signing a very important document.
But critics say little has been achieved, and that's why the summit is here, in thriving Vietnam, to show Kim what can happen when old hostilities,
Little Rocket Man,
are put aside.
we fell in love.
The potential is awesome, he tweeted today, like almost none other in history, for my friend Kim Jong-un. The talks begin in earnest tomorrow.
In their first one-on-one meeting of their second nuclear summit, President Trump expressing optimism he can convince Kim Jong-un to stop all nuclear testing and eventually abandon his nuclear program.
I thought the first summit was a great success, and I think this one hopefully will be equal or greater than the first.
But intelligence reports show after that first summit, Kim held on to his vast nuclear arsenal. This time in Vietnam, the president is trying to convince Kim to sign on to a verifiable, enforceable agreement or face the threat of more punishing sanctions. The president using flattery to help seal the deal.
I think that your country has tremendous economic potential, unbelievable, unlimited. And I think that you will have a tremendous future with your country, a great leader.
At a dinner later,
Everybody having a good time?
the president once again talking about his close bond with the volatile leader.
Our relationship is a very special relationship.
As some experts and lawmakers warn this dictator should never be trusted.
Charm alone is not going to get him to give up his nuclear weapons, and the president needs to understand that.
The president hoping for an international win as his former lawyer, Michael Cohen, dominates the news back home. But supporters believe this second summit is at the very least a step in the right direction.
Morning, sir.
Testifying before Congress for a second time. But this time, Michael Cohen says he's telling the truth.
I am no longer your fixer, Mr. Trump.
Donald Trump's former personal lawyer with a deeply personal takedown.
He is a racist, he is a con man, and he is a cheat.
A cheat, Cohen says, for sleeping with Stormy Daniels, then covering it up.
Not only did I lie to the American people, I lied to the First Lady.
Cohen says he paid the adult film star hush money and came armed with the check he says proves the president reimbursed him.
As part of a criminal scheme to violate campaign finance laws.
Just some of the dirty work Cohen claims he did.
How many times did Mr. Trump ask you to threaten an individual? 100 times?
More.
200 times?
More.
500 times?
Probably.
He also claimed Donald Trump knew Hillary Clinton's emails were hacked and says he believed his boss wanted him to deny negotiations over a Trump Tower development in Moscow well into the campaign. He did, publicly and before Congress.
In his way, he was telling me to lie.
It was those very details that Cohen lied about under oath the first time, in part why he's now going to jail. But today he claimed Trump's attorneys edited his false testimony and the White House reviewed it before he committed perjury. The White House and Republicans argue Cohen's a proven liar who can't be trusted.
You're a pathological liar.
Are you referring to me, sir, or the president?
It's a disgrace to our country.
President Trump hammering Democrats for what he calls harassment.
Basically, they've started the campaign, so the campaign begins.
His son, Eric,
I mean, these people are so desperate.
is among the 81 Trump associates asked for documents as the House Judiciary Committee investigates obstruction of justice, corruption, and abuse of power.
We need to build this record, collect the documents, interview witnesses under oath. We want to show the American people what we found.
Critics say it's an insurance policy as the country awaits a final report any day now from Russia Special Counsel Robert Mueller.
They're worried the Mueller report will come up with basically nothing against the president.
Former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen is back on Capitol Hill today behind closed doors.
I look forward to tomorrow, to being able to, in my voice, to tell the American people my story.
And the Senate is poised to reject President Trump's national emergency to build the border wall with Mexico, prompting his first presidential veto.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi delivering a Democratic reality check, explaining why she opposes impeaching President Trump.
Now it divides the country unless there's some conclusive evidence that takes us to that place.
The nation's top Democrat earlier telling the Washington Post magazine, "I'm not for impeachment. This is news." Explaining, unless there's something so compelling and overwhelming and bipartisan, I don't think we should go down that path because it divides the country, and he's just not worth it. Could Special Counsel Robert Mueller's report change that?
If that is so conclusive that there's a bipartisanship, that there's a message to the president, so be it.
Pelosi's comments may not sit well with some Democrats who are calling for Congress to begin impeachment proceedings, like Rashida Tlaib, who in January used an expletive to punctuate her desire to remove the president.
Because we're going to go in there, we're going to impeach them.
Right now, newly empowered House Democrats are spearheading multiple investigations into President Trump and his administration, focusing on possible obstruction of justice, corruption, and abuse of power. Still, many Democrats insist impeachment is premature, the same argument her boss has been making for months.
Let's impeach the president, and then we'll impeach the vice president. These people are sick.
For nearly 2 years, Robert Mueller's work has loomed over the Trump presidency, investigating whether anyone in the Trump campaign helped the Russians meddle in the 2016 election.
Expectations are high. I think the American people are thirsty to find out what has gone on.
What may have started with a Trump campaign advisor telling Australia's then High Commissioner to the UK, Alexander Downer, about Russians having dirt on Hillary Clinton, an FBI inquiry became the Mueller probe.
It's all a big hoax.
Consistently attacked by the president.
It's all a made-up fantasy. It's a witch hunt.
There was no collusion of any kind.
There was no collusion. There was no obstruction. There was no nothing.
But there have been charges already brought against Donald Trump's former national security advisor, campaign chairman, political advisor and attorney, though none were accused of helping Russia interfere in the election. The investigation spread to Donald Trump's family, business dealings, and has been used by opponents to talk impeachment.
We're going to impeach them.
Someone who's stayed quiet about Robert Mueller's investigation is Robert Mueller, who hasn't said a word publicly since his work began. Now the question is how much of what he's found will be made public by the US Attorney General. Democrats demanding everything be released.
The American people have a right to the truth.
The president came out swinging.
It's complete exoneration. No collusion, no obstruction. Thank you very much. Thank you.
He's only half right. US Attorney General William Barr released a 4-page summary of Special Counsel Robert Mueller's report. It concludes the Trump campaign didn't help Russia interfere with the 2016 presidential election. But it hasn't cleared Trump of obstructing the investigation into that interference, finding that while it does not conclude that the president committed a crime, it also does not exonerate him. Opponents accused Trump of obstructing the Russia probe when he fired FBI Director James Comey.
I said, you know, This Russia thing with Trump and Russia is a made-up story.
But the summary says Mueller did not draw a conclusion one way or another as to whether this constituted obstruction. That's despite a massive 22-month investigation, almost 3,000 subpoenas, 500 search warrants, 500 witness interviews. Trump, meanwhile, seemed to foreshadow investigating the investigators.
This was an illegal takedown that failed.
The president is back here at the White House tonight, reveling in today's news, but it's not over yet. The Democrats say this letter raises more questions than answers, and they now want Mueller's full report released as soon as possible. In a city where his policies have divided, Donald Trump's presence wasn't going to unite. This is Calexico, at the heart of the president's border wall campaign.
God bless America.
Touring the site,
400 miles will cover most of it.
Speaking with border agents.
Thank you, Mr. President.
And sending a message to America's neighbours.
Our country is full. Our area is full. The sector is full. Can't take you anymore. I'm sorry. Can't happen. So turn around. That's the way it is.
The president had threatened to shut the southern border if Mexico didn't tighten its security, today putting economic sanctions on the table.
If they continue that, everything will be fine. If they don't, we're going to tariff their cars at 25% coming into the United States.
His next stop, a rare visit to Los Angeles. It's little wonder the president doesn't make this trip to California often. His approval rating here is less than 30%. But with the 2020 campaign just around the corner, he's here rallying support and donations.
And I came out here because, well, why wouldn't you support our president? It's a very rare thing for him to come to California, so just this site alone is very, very exciting.
Just being a member of the Republican Party is more like social suicide.
A rare visit and a rare sight as the president's motorcade shut down the normally packed 405 freeway at rush hour, en route to a Beverly Hills fundraiser. Donald Trump calling his opponent's bluff on the southern border.
I call them the illegals. They came across the border illegally. We'll bring them to sanctuary city areas and let that particular area take care of it.
The president threatening to bus detained migrants into the opposition heartland.
Want more people in their sanctuary cities? Well, we'll give them more people. We can give them a lot. We can give them an unlimited supply. They're always saying they have open arms. Let's see if they have open arms.
Sanctuary cities across America protect undocumented arrivals from prosecution or deportation. A policy that's infuriated a president who campaigns on tougher borders.
These outrageous sanctuary cities are grave threats to public safety and national security.
Top White House officials insisted the plan had been shelved, but the president gave it new life today with a single tweet. We are indeed giving strong considerations to placing illegal immigrants in sanctuary cities only. It's an immigration plan that just got personal, and the target states come as no surprise. All strongholds of Donald Trump's political enemies: New York, Chicago, and here in California, including House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's home district of San Francisco.
It's just another notion that is unworthy of the presidency of the United States and disrespectful of the challenges that we face as a country.
A country watching their president draw new battle lines on the border.
There's growing fear at the White House.
I mean, one person described it to us as breakdown level anxiety.
Wow. More than a dozen current and former White House staffers tell NBC they're worried tomorrow's report will read like a tell-all novel.
We never did anything wrong.
Exposing testimony from White House insiders on what the president did and said behind closed doors.
Even if he doesn't call out staffers by name on these obstruction issues, it won't take Sherlock Holmes to figure out in some cases if there's a one-on-one exchange with the president who the staffer in question was that cooperated with Bob Mueller.
How might President Trump react to testimony from confidants like former White House counsel Don McGahn?
Don McGahn was interviewed for hours and hours by Mueller. Don McGahn was there when James Comey was fired.
Special counsel Robert Mueller found no collusion with Russia, and with mixed evidence, the attorney general decided not to prosecute the president on obstruction of justice.
If you can't indict, maybe you'll just try to embarrass and harass, but that will never equal collusion.
NBC News has learned the witnesses' attorneys have been asking the Justice Department if they'll be identified. The department won't say.
For a defiant Donald Trump, it was business as usual at the White House and the same song sheet.
No collusion, no obstruction.
But the headlines for one of America's most anticipated reports told a different story.
Tonight, the nation riveted by the Mueller Report.
This was far from an average day in Washington. No Russian collusion, but a whole lot of dirty laundry. Amongst 400 pages, a detailed account of the moment Robert Mueller was appointed. The president slumped back in his chair. "Oh my God, this is terrible. This is the end of my presidency. This is the worst thing that has ever happened to me." A month later, he tried and failed to have Mueller sacked. White House counsel Don McGahn saying he'd rather resign than carry out a Saturday night massacre. No criminal charges, but no exoneration either. Donald Trump's calling it game over on Twitter today. The Democrats say it's game on. They're fuming about the Attorney General's handling of the report, and Congress now wants to question the author himself.
I want to be able to ask Mr. Mueller, who is a former Republican-appointed FBI director, about what happened with this investigation.
The Attorney General did a grave disservice to the country by misrepresenting significant parts of the Mueller report.
One cloud lifted, now another threat looming. It was a meeting to rebuild America, but ended with a wrecking ball.
I want to do infrastructure. I want to do it more than you want to do it. You can't do it under these circumstances. So get these phony investigations over with.
Until they do, he's refusing to work with Democrats, fuming over this accusation earlier in the day.
We believe that the President of the United States is engaged in a cover-up.
I don't do cover-ups.
Unlike past meetings, he stepped into this one without shaking hands and ended it abruptly after 3 minutes.
To watch what happened in the White House would make your jaw drop.
Robert Mueller's Russia probe may be over, but Congress has 11 investigations of its own still underway, with subpoenas for Trump's inner circle. Trump's stonewalling strategy was dealt a blow by the courts today, a federal judge ruling the House can subpoena 2 banks for the president's financial records, just days after his accounting firm was also ordered to comply with a subpoena.
I pray for the President of the United States. And I pray for the United States of America.
Goodwill giving way to warfare on Capitol Hill. Finally stepping into the public eye, Robert Mueller broke his silence.
Good morning, everyone.
Only to say his report speaks for itself.
We chose those words carefully.
But they were words he wanted to clarify, rejecting this assertion by the Attorney General.
The evidence developed by the special counsel is not sufficient to establish that the president committed an obstruction of justice offense.
If we had had confidence that the president clearly did not commit a crime, we would have said so.
Saying he took no legal action because it was simply not an option.
The president cannot be charged with a federal crime while he is in office.
The president claiming that changes nothing, tweeting there was insufficient evidence and therefore in our country a person is innocent. The case is closed.
He completed his investigation. Now he's closed his office and it's time for everybody to move on. He's going back to his private life and we think everybody else should too.
While Robert Mueller resigned from his post today, he did leave the door open to further investigations. He said it would be unconstitutional for him to indict a sitting president, leaving it up to Congress to now decide Donald Trump's fate. More than 40 Democrats and some Republicans have now called for impeachment proceedings to begin.
We shall see. Nothing is off the table.
Emerging from the White House for the first time since Robert Mueller declined to clear him of any wrongdoing, Donald Trump got personal.
Mueller is a true never-Trumper. He's somebody that dislikes Donald Trump.
The commander-in-chief confused, making a key admission: I had nothing to do with Russia helping me to get elected, then taking it back.
No, Russia did not help me get elected. You know who got me elected? You know who got me elected? I got me elected.
Mueller's investigation revealed Russia did interfere in the election, favouring the Trump campaign.
Nothing but a witch hunt. This is a witch hunt by the media and the Democrats, their partners.
But what Donald Trump calls a witch hunt could soon escalate into impeachment proceedings. There's increasing pressure for Congress to take over Robert Mueller's investigation, with the number of Democrats and Republicans calling for intervention growing.
If any other human being in this country had done what's documented in the Mueller report, they would be arrested and put in jail.
To me, it's a dirty word, the word impeach. It's a dirty, filthy, disgusting word. And it had nothing to do with me.
June 2019, and Donald Trump was in the spotlight on the world stage. He made his way to the UK for a dinner with Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth at Buckingham Palace, in what would be the monarch's final ever state dinner. Trump then made his way to the border of North and South Korea, becoming the first US president ever to step foot inside the demilitarised zone. The Mueller report was made public, but its author had barely been heard from in person, preferring to let his written words do the talking. But all that would change in July 2019, when Mueller was called to testify in hearings at the Capitol.
The Queen and the President, and a royal welcome for a visiting head of state money can't buy. Inside Buckingham Palace's glittering banquet hall, the Trumps and the Windsors, two families, two nations. Diplomacy over dinner to keep the so-called special relationship on track.
I paid my first state visit to your country at the invitation of President Eisenhower.
They focused on shared sacrifice during World War II, the Queen highlighting cooperation and alliances.
While the world has changed, we are forever mindful of the original purpose of these structures, nations working together to safeguard a hard-won peace.
This is, of course, the America First president, though, who backs Brexit.
We affirm the common values that will unite us long into the future: freedom, sovereignty, self-determination.
Earlier, the President and First Lady were welcomed by Charles and Camilla, taking on an expanded role now that Prince Philip has retired. The Queen offered a warm smile to the visiting President. Her Majesty has met 12 from the US. Donald Trump is just the third to be offered a full state visit. American expectations of presidential security means this is how the first couple is travelling around London. Of course, the beast travels everywhere. They will not be in the gold state carriage, but this is still the state visit that Donald Trump longed for, being treated like royalty. This is a trip dripping in ceremony and symbolism. A visit to Westminster Abbey and the grave of the unknown warrior. A presidential glimpse too into the royal collection. That's Prince Harry in the background, avoiding the limelight so as not to draw attention to Mr. Trump's spat with wife Meghan. He's called her nasty. It didn't seem too awkward at Clarence House, even if the Prince and President don't agree on issues like climate change. Camilla almost seemed to be enjoying it. Over the bleak English coast, the colours representing so many Allied forces, above 15 world leaders side by side from nations once at war, now enjoying modern day peace, here to honour the 130,000 soldiers who fought to achieve it.
It is with humility and pleasure, on behalf of the entire country, indeed the whole free world, that I say to you all, thank you.
They were alongside survivors.
More paratroops at work at one time than we've ever seen before.
Who set off from here for D-Day, the biggest mission of World War II, to liberate Europe from the Nazis.
This was to be the longest day.
The Queen recounted her father King George's speech.
We need a revival of spirit, a new unconquerable resolve. That is exactly what those brave men brought to the battle as the fate of the world depended on their success.
Donald Trump spoke from President Roosevelt's address to America as troops were setting off for battle.
Our sons, pride of our nation, this day have set upon a mighty endeavor.
Presidents and prime ministers.
Let me first thank you sincerely on behalf of my nation.
Kept the memory alive of soldiers no longer here.
Et je chanterai Sombre Meuse,
who came from across the globe. Then personal thanks to the now few surviving heroes sent into horror.
It's important that we reflect on that, understand the causes and the forces that brought the world to that point at that time.
6 Australian squadrons took part in D-Day, a truly allied effort that set the path to a peace that still holds today for billions around the world.
The important thing today is the veterans, talking to them. It's overwhelming.
Veterans returned to the skies today. This time they landed not to gunfire but applause. On land, they made safe.
If this is the window into 2020...
I believe that the president is literally an existential threat to America.
Joe Biden is a dummy.
The race to the White House is about to get dirty. The president, a former vice president, facing off today in the key state of Iowa.
Iowa farmers have been crushed by his tariff war with China.
Their war got underway early when a copy of Biden's speech was leaked.
When a man has to mention my name 76 times in a speech, that means he's in trouble. I think he's the weakest mentally.
I guess he's really fascinated with me. I find it fascinating, you know what I mean?
Only one Democratic hopeful will have a chance at a fairy tale finish. Polling out today shows Biden leading Trump in a head-to-head matchup.
The polling got it completely wrong in 2016. I don't think it's right now.
He's been running for re-election from the day he took office, but as of next week, it'll be official. Trump will hold a so-called mega rally in Florida, with the Vice President and First Lady by his side as he formally announces his bid for a second term.
President Donald Trump.
From 2016's outsider to 2020's main event. The Trumps are back for round 2.
He truly loves this country.
The president filling a 20,000-seat stadium in the swing state of Florida to pitch for another term in Washington.
2016 was not merely another 4-year election. This was a defining moment in American history.
And he set the tone with a tweet vowing to remove millions of undocumented migrants from the US starting next week.
So the wall is moving along. It's moving along rapidly. It's beautiful. I changed the design. It's stronger, bigger, better, and cheaper.
No new policy announcements today. His re-election pitch, a self-scorecard on foreign policy and the economy.
That is why tonight I stand before you to officially launch my campaign for a second term.
Familiar slogans and even bigger war chest this time. Donald Trump will head into 2020 with arguably the most loyal base of supporters in modern political history. But there's a slim margin for error in this key battleground state. A new poll says he'd lose Florida facing former Vice President Joe Biden. He'd also be beaten by Bernie Sanders. Polls that got it so wrong last time.
This is the reality when 100,000 people come to see the president hours before he actually comes on stage.
Not only is he making America great again, he is bringing back jobs for the American people.
Keep America great.
It was early evening at the White House as top national security leaders gathered, clutching classified folders. America was poised, cocked and loaded, the president said, for retaliatory strikes. After shooting down a US drone, Tehran was set to feel Washington's wrath. But with just minutes to spare...
They came and they said, sir, we're ready to go. We'd like a decision. I said, I want to know something before you go. How many people will be killed?
The mission was off, and America would learn how close it came to conflict from the Commander-in-Chief himself on Twitter. 10 minutes before the strike, I stopped it, he announced.
Here we are sitting with 150 dead people that would have taken place probably within a half an hour after I said go ahead. Yeah. And I didn't like it.
The remnants of that $190 million drone were paraded in Iran today. The military chief there revealing it opted to take down that instead of a manned US military plane also in the crosshairs. It's by no means an end to tensions with Iran, nor will they go unpunished. For now, the president's opting for sanctions over military action, earning him rare praise from political opponents.
I'm not looking for war. And if there is, it'll be obliteration like you've never seen before.
From the Oval Office, President Trump delivers Iran a crippling blow, slapping the country with new sanctions, targeting its leadership by blocking access to financial resources.
Today's action follows a series of aggressive behaviors by the Iranian regime in recent weeks, including shooting down of US drones.
The unmanned aircraft was shot down by Iranian forces last week.
A lot of restraint has been shown by us, a lot of restraint, and that doesn't mean we're going to show it in the future.
The US has also accused Tehran of attacking oil tankers in the Gulf of Oman. President Trump sending Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to meet leaders in the region.
Thank you so much for seeing me on such short notice.
Attempting to set up a coalition force against Iran to protect shipping in the area. The president open to negotiations with Iran's supreme leader.
We do not seek conflict with Iran or any other country.
But a diplomatic solution is slipping away. Iran responding to the sanctions with a threat, saying it wouldn't hesitate to shoot down another US drone. Iran's foreign minister referring to Trump's advisors and other supporters as the B team, saying they despise diplomacy and thirst for war. America has indicated further sanctions are possible. Iran's president launches a verbal attack on the White House.
The White House is suffering from mental disability.
Hassan Rouhani retaliating to US sanctions imposed on Iran's supreme leader.
They do strange things that no sane person in the history of world politics has done.
The comments provoking President Trump. Any attack by Iran on anything American will be met with great and overwhelming force. In some areas, overwhelming will mean obliteration. A war of words threatening to escalate, with the president later telling reporters Iran takes the threat seriously.
I think everybody does. I think you do too. Goodbye.
The comments a major about-face after President Trump last week called off military action following the downing of a US drone by Iranian forces. Instead, he broadened sanctions, calling on Iran to end its nuclear program and funding of militant groups. Today, the president still open to negotiations.
They have to get rid of the hostility from the leadership. The leadership, I hope they stay. I hope they do a great job, but they should talk to us decently.
Iranian officials say they won't be intimidated to the negotiating table, claiming the latest US sanctions put an end to any possible diplomatic solution. Face to face in uncharted territory. Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un, where no sitting American president has been before. A history-making handshake. Then steps over a demarcation line inside North Korea. Security kept cameramen back as they jostled to record a moment the world never thought it would see.
Move! I just want to say that this is my honor. I didn't really expect it. We were in Japan for the G20. We came over and I said, hey, I'm over here. I want to call Chairman Kim.
The pair had nothing but praise for one another.
A lot of progress has been made. A lot of friendships have been made, and this has been in particular a great friendship. So I just want to thank you. That was very quick notice, and I want to thank you.
The president has now met the leader of the rogue nation 3 times, but this invite via Twitter came as a surprise.
I've never expected to meet you at this place.
At the first historic summit in Singapore last year, there was hope North Korea would scale back its nuclear ambitions. But earlier this year, a second summit in Hanoi ended abruptly. Chairman Kim was unwilling to compromise on nuclear disarmament without more trade sanctions being lifted. Now a third encounter, this time at the DMZ, putting diplomacy back on the table. Ahead of the trip, the president played down the importance of the meeting.
It's just a step.
It might be an important step and it might not, but what we're doing today is a step.
More was discussed during a meeting without cameras listening in, followed by President Trump inviting the dictator, who he once called Little Rocket Man, to visit the White House.
You hear the power of that voice. Nobody's heard that voice before. He doesn't do news conferences, in case you haven't heard.
Another chapter in a surprise diplomatic saga where feared foes met more like friends.
Surrounded by security, the former special counsel arrived at the Capitol. After 22 months of asking questions, it was Robert Mueller's turn to answer them.
So help you God.
The reluctant witness intent on sticking to the script.
Can't get into it. Can't get into that. Can't get into that.
A lot of things you can't get into.
Refusing to speak beyond his written report.
The report is my testimony.
The Democrats more than happy to oblige.
Did you actually totally exonerate the president?
No.
Listing instances Donald Trump attempted to obstruct the investigation into Russian collusion.
An unsuccessful attempt to obstruct justice is still a crime. Is that correct?
That is correct.
The special counsel conceding there was insufficient evidence to prove the Trump campaign conspired.
We did not address collusion, which is not a legal term.
Standing by his decision not to press charges.
You're not going to indict the president, then you just continue fishing.
We cannot indict a sitting president.
Could you charge the president with a crime after he left office?
Yes.
Today's hearings were must-see television broadcast live across the country. The Democrats hope the testimony will reignite interest in the 448-page report that most Americans haven't read. The president, one of the millions watching.
There was no defense to this ridiculous hoax, this witch hunt that's been going on for a long time.
Knowing that with Democrats still considering impeachment, it could be set to go even longer.
August 2019 brought bad news for Trump. His attempt to buy Greenland had failed spectacularly. And then his former friend Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his maximum security New York jail cell. Towards the end of 2019, and talk of a Trump impeachment ratcheted up. Talk soon turned to action, with an impeachment inquiry taking centre stage in American politics.
A night out in Dayton that turned to sheer terror.
We got shots fired, we got multiple people down.
Many run into this bar for shelter. The shooter, with body armour and 100 rounds of ammunition, tries to follow, but police stop him, dead.
Threat was neutralized in approximately 30 seconds.
But in those seconds, 24-year-old Connor Betts still killed 9 people, including his 22-year-old sister Megan. Innocence shattered by the American nightmare.
We were dancing, having a good time, and then all of a sudden we heard somebody behind us go, gun, shooter.
The bloodshed and mourning just hours after the same in El Paso, Texas, where they grieve 20 lives lost to a gunman.
I had a friend that was missing, and one of the family members told me that he might be in there.
So you're not sure if he's alive or dead?
Sir, I'm not sure.
Jordan Anchondo, killed trying to protect her 2-month-old baby.
She was just a wonderful person. She'd give anything for those kids.
Now in custody, the alleged gunman is believed to have driven 8 hours from his home to El Paso to carry out the massacre, posting online a manifesto of anti-immigrant hatred. He now faces the death penalty.
We're going to do what we do to terrorists in this country, which is deliver swift and certain justice.
It's just a 20-minute drive from here to the Mexican border, where today its government is threatening landmark legal action against the United States, claiming America failed to protect its people, many of whom crossed into El Paso just to go shopping.
Hate has no place in our country, and we're going to take care of it.
His opponents saying he should start with his words.
But how do you stop these people? You can't. There's no...
We have a president right now who traffics in this hatred, who incites this violence.
On gun laws,
Do something! Do something!
Communities in shock are demanding action. As his country mourned from top to bottom, the president addressed a grieving nation.
Our nation is overcome with shock, horror, and sorrow.
Donald Trump announcing his response to the weekend massacres, crackdowns on social media and violent video games, mental health reform, the seizure of weapons from high-risk individuals, and a mandatory death penalty for mass murder or hate crimes. But nothing on broader gun control.
Mental illness and hatred pulls the trigger, not the gun.
The president condemned hateful actions as his opponents blamed his hateful words.
If you read the quote-unquote manifesto, it reads like a script from a Trump rally.
Including presidential candidate and El Paso local Beto O'Rourke.
Well, Jesus Christ, of course he's racist. He's been racist from day one.
Donald Trump will travel here to El Paso and to Dayton, Ohio later this week. A presidential tour that's likely to inflame tensions in the two communities that have now become the face of America's deep divisions. The streets today, a preview of the reception he can expect to receive. Protesters demanding change he's unlikely to bring. In the wake of two mass shootings came the president and the protesters.
We need to have sensible gun control in this country.
In Dayton, Ohio and El Paso, Texas, Donald Trump met survivors, medical staff and police who confronted the gunman.
I wanted to come and thank you because you're very special people and nobody like you.
Dayton's mayor disappointed he wouldn't commit to greater gun control.
Do I think that we're going to see another mass shooting tomorrow or Friday? Probably, because Washington will not move.
We have a president with a toxic tongue who has publicly and unapologetically embraced the political strategy of hate, racism and division.
No, I don't think my rhetoric has it all. I think my rhetoric is it brings people together.
Many here say Trump should not have come. Supporters disagree.
If he didn't come, what would they say about him? Oh, man, this happened and Trump didn't even come down here.
Some already dismissing banning the guns used in the massacres.
We had for 10 years a so-called assault weapon ban in effect. The Department of Justice studied that and concluded it had zero effect on violent crime.
The message from Dayton and from here in El Paso has been loud and clear. Now it's up to the president to take it back to Washington, leaving these communities wondering, will there be real change?
He spent his life rubbing shoulders with presidents and princes, but today that life came to an end. The body of Jeffrey Epstein carried from a New York hospital after the disgraced billionaire was found unresponsive in his prison cell. The 66-year-old, accused of running a child sex trafficking ring, had been on suicide watch after being found in a similar state 3 weeks ago.
Had he been taken off suicide watch, the question becomes why?
His death came a day after court documents detailed one woman's claims he kept her as a teenage sex slave, forcing her to perform sex acts on powerful men, including Prince Andrew, an allegation Buckingham Palace denies. With Epstein no longer able to face justice, his victims hope that those accomplices and enablers will. They also want the billionaire's assets frozen so they can file civil lawsuits.
Even though he's gone, his victims are still suffering from a lifetime of pain.
Epstein would have faced 45 years behind bars if convicted criminally.
Finally, their day in court. Jeffrey Epstein's accusers sharing harrowing stories of sexual abuse, with one saying it started at now President Donald Trump's Florida retreat.
I was recruited at a very young age from Mar-a-Lago and entrapped in a world that I didn't understand.
Virginia Roberts-Giuffre says she was kept as a sex slave and ordered to have sex with Prince Andrew 3 times when she was 17 years old. The prince has strongly denied it.
He knows exactly what he's done, and I hope he comes clean about it.
Shauntae Davies says Epstein raped her on his island estate.
I was searching for words, but all I could say was a meek, "No, please stop." But that just seemed to excite him more.
Many of the 23 women represented today say his death robbed them of justice, with prosecutors dropping the case. Jeffrey Epstein's lawyers were also in court today, raising questions about how the 66-year-old died in his New York prison cell, suggesting he may have been strangled and demanding further investigation. Despite the official medical finding, it was suicide.
Over the thumping sound of Marine One.
Hi, Mr. President.
Donald Trump delivered a blistering message to an American ally.
You don't talk to the United States that way, at least under me.
His target, Denmark's Prime Minister, who rebuffed the president's pitch to buy its territory, Greenland, calling it absurd.
Yeah, I thought it was an inappropriate statement. All she had to do is say, no, we wouldn't be interested.
So insulted, he called off an upcoming visit to Copenhagen overnight based on Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen's comments.
It was said in a very nasty, very sarcastic way. I said, we'll make it some other time.
It is with regret and surprise that I received the news that President Trump has cancelled his state visit.
The president doubled down on Denmark and backed down on other issues in today's freewheeling press conference, drawing criticism for his mixed messages on both gun control and tax cuts. Insisting the American economy is in good shape despite ominous warnings from economists about a protracted trade war with China.
I am the chosen one. Somebody had to do it, so I'm taking on China.
And the Danes, yet another old friendship facing a Trump freeze. Cast out of the West Wing but going down with a fight, America's national security advisor phoned into a network he knew the president would be watching.
John Bolton just texted me just now. He's watching.
Can you read it?
He said, let's be clear, I resigned.
Just minutes after Donald Trump tweeted his demise, saying he informed John Bolton last night that his services are no longer needed at the White House. I disagreed strongly with many of his suggestions, as did others in the administration. President Trump campaigned on pulling American troops out of foreign conflicts, while Bolton lobbied for a harder line on Iran, Russia and North Korea, increasingly frustrated by Trump's handshake diplomacy with America's adversaries.
John Bolton is absolutely a hawk. It's up to him. He'd take on the whole world at one time, okay? But that doesn't matter, because I want both sides.
The pair clashing in recent days over the president's plan to meet with the Taliban for peace talks at Camp David.
It was my idea, and it was my idea to terminate it.
Trump is now searching for his fourth national security advisor in less than 3 years. The shake-up coming at a critical time as he prepares for a possible meeting with Iran's leader later this month.
As the flames in Saudi Arabia have died down, the blame for what happened has ratcheted up. President Donald Trump today asked if he'd seen proof Iran was behind the attack.
But it's certainly looking that way at this moment, and we'll let you know.
Iran has denied it was responsible for the crippling strikes that knocked out half of Saudi Arabia's oil output. The Houthi rebels it backs in Yemen claim they did it. But US intelligence reportedly points to Iran being the staging ground for an attack with drones and missiles. And Saudi officials say initial investigations have indicated the weapons used in the attack were Iranian and not launched from Yemen.
I don't want war with anybody, but we're prepared more than anybody.
His tweet, the US was locked and loaded, had politicians urging calm.
This is once again a little bit of a Rambo attitude that is very risky.
Presidential candidate Bernie Sanders posting only Congress and not the president can declare war. The question now, will the US retaliate and how? Its options include everything from a cyber attack to targeting Iranian ships to a military strike, an option Donald Trump backed away from in June after Iran shot down an American drone.
We'll see what happens.
This UAV is Iranian.
Saudi Arabian officials parading evidence it says proves Iran was behind attacks on their oil fields. Remnants of cruise missiles and drones that knocked out almost half the kingdom's oil capacity.
It was an assault to the international community.
In Mike Pompeo's words, an act of war. The US Secretary of State on the ground in Saudi Arabia to meet with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, as the president announced he'd instructed the Secretary of Treasury to substantially increase sanctions on the country of Iran.
We'll see. We're in a very powerful position.
Sanctions alone not tough enough for the president's allies on Capitol Hill.
If they don't pay a price for bombing a neighbor's oil fields, then all hell is going to break out in the Mideast.
It's flatly denied any involvement in the attack, but the spotlight on Iran is only set to intensify next week as world leaders gather in New York for the UN General Assembly. Donald Trump reluctant to start a war, having focused his presidency on ending them.
It's very easy to attack, but if you ask Lindsay, ask him how did going into the Middle East, how did that work out?
Guiding him through those questions, his fourth national security advisor appointed today, Robert O'Brien, America's top hostage negotiator.
Arriving for his moment on the world stage.
Mr. President?
But for Donald Trump, the script had changed.
It's a witch hunt. I'm leading in the polls. They have no idea how they stop me. The only way they can try is through impeachment.
A deepening scandal over a July phone call with Ukraine's new President Volodymyr Zelensky, in which Trump's accused of pressuring him into finding dirt on 2020 rival Joe Biden and holding back almost $500 million in military aid.
Well, there was no pressure put on them whatsoever, but there was pressure put on with respect to Joe Biden.
Trump claims when Biden was vice president, he pushed Ukraine to drop a corruption investigation into a company his son Hunter worked for. Claims that haven't been proven, but that's not worrying Trump.
What Joe Biden did for his son, that's something they should be looking at.
Today, Democrats declared open warfare.
I'm announcing the House of Representatives moving forward with an official impeachment inquiry.
In a twist of timing, Donald Trump is scheduled to meet Ukraine's President Zelensky face-to-face here in New York in just a few hours. Whatever they were going to discuss, this will now be the focus. An impeachment inquiry long talked about, but now a reality that will follow Donald Trump all the way to next year's presidential election.
But if we allow a president to get away with shredding the United States Constitution, that will last forever.
On the sidelines of the UN,
We're with the president of Ukraine, and he's made me more famous, and I've made him more famous.
face to face over the phone call that's triggered an impeachment inquiry.
Have you felt any pressure from President Trump to investigate Joe Biden and Hunter Biden?
We spoke about many things, and so I think, and you read it, that nobody pushed me. Yes.
In other words, no pressure.
Donald Trump in damage mode after releasing a condensed memo of that half-hour July phone call, revealing the moment he asked a foreign leader to investigate a political rival for corruption. There's a lot of talk about Biden's son, Trump said. Biden went around bragging that he stopped the prosecution, so if you can look into it, it sounds horrible to me. President Zelensky responding, the next prosecutor general will be 100% my person. He or she will look into the situation. When he expressed a desire to buy more military equipment, Trump replied, I would like you to do us a favour though, urging Ukraine to also investigate 2016 election meddling.
What those notes reflect is a classic mafia-like shakedown of a foreign leader.
It's a joke. Impeachment for that?
Members of Congress have now seen the details of a whistleblower complaint that triggered this whole crisis, and in just a few hours they'll get the chance to question Trump's acting intelligence chief about it. But if articles of impeachment make it to the Republican-controlled Senate, he still has allies there for now.
To impeach any president over a phone call like this would be insane.
Fired up.
Are you talking to me?
On the attack.
It's a disgrace what's going on. He's a shifty, dishonest guy.
Donald Trump.
I think it's a scandal.
Unleashing about the impeachment inquiry against him, setting the tone with a tweet accusing Democrats of wasting everyone's time and energy on bull.
They've been trying to impeach me from the day I got elected.
But Democrats claim the White House is stalling on releasing documents.
We're not fooling around here.
Slamming the president for asking more about the whistleblower who exposed his call with Ukraine.
This is a blatant effort to intimidate witnesses. It's an incitement to violence.
He should resign from office in disgrace. And frankly, they should look at him for treason.
All playing out before another bemused world leader.
We have the president of Finland. Ask him a question.
I have one for him. I just wanted to follow up on the one that I asked you. Which
did you hear
what
me?
Did you want?
Did you hear me?
Yes,
ask
sir.
him a question.
I will. But
I've given you a long answer. Ask this gentleman a question. Don't be rude.
The Finnish president was asked a question, but Mr. Trump answered.
This was a $7 billion win. Not bad.
But I think the question is for me.
Watching the spectacle, Russia's president, who couldn't resist a joke about election meddling.
I'll tell you in a secret, yes, we will definitely intervene. It's a secret, so that everybody can laugh.
What's no secret?
It's a whole hoax.
This political storm is only intensifying. Under fire for urging foreign governments to investigate his domestic rival, Donald Trump today insisted it's not about politics.
I don't care about Biden's campaign, but I do care about corruption. His campaign, that's up to him. Politics, that's up to them. I don't care about politics. Corruption. We are looking for corruption.
As newly revealed texts from US diplomats suggest President Trump's call asking Ukraine to dig into Joe Biden and his son did have strings attached, with a White House invite seemingly on offer. On the day of the call, US Special Envoy Kurt Volker texted an aide to Ukraine's president, heard from the White House, assuming President Zed convinces Trump he will investigate, get to the bottom of what happened in 2016, we will nail down date for visit to Washington. And last month, America's top diplomat in Ukraine messaged, I think it's crazy to withhold security assistance to help with a political campaign. A colleague responded, I believe you are incorrect about President Trump's intentions. The president has been crystal clear, no quid pro quos of any kind, adding, I suggest we stop the back and forth by text.
All this talk of the president about corruption comes from the most corrupt president we've had in modern history. He's the definition of corruption.
While in Ukraine, prosecutors say they're taking another look at the company that gave Joe Biden's son a job on its board, denying they've been pressured by anyone.
The prosecutor office is outside of politics.
History was made at the end of 2019. The impeachment hearings against Trump were to be televised. Millions tuned in as the Democrats made their case. In December, for the third time in American history, the House voted to impeach the president.
It was more than a vote, this was a pledge of party loyalty.
Those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no.
A symbolic step in a bitterly divisive impeachment inquiry.
We were so hurried to impeach this president, we don't really give a darn about the rules.
We recognize that we have been compelled by the circumstances to move forward.
With Democrats controlling the House, it did move forward with new ground rules that mean the next hearings will be public and televised.
The House and the American public must see all the evidence for themselves.
Evidence Democrats argue that Donald Trump abused his power in asking Ukraine's president to investigate political rival Joe Biden.
It's a sad day because nobody comes to Congress to impeach a president of the United States. No one.
All but 2 Democrats voted in favour of the impeachment inquiry. Not a single Republican supported it. Loyalty that will matter most if this heads to a trial in the Senate. The president predictably labelling this Halloween vote a witch hunt.
The Democrats are desperate. They're desperate. And it's the only way they're going to try and win the election this way because they can't win it the fair way.
She served 6 presidents over 33 years. Now Marie Yovanovitch is a key witness in this president's impeachment inquiry.
Was Marie Yovanovitch the target of a smear campaign?
I really don't know her, but if you look at the transcripts, the president of Ukraine was not a fan of hers either. I'm sure she's a very fine woman.
The ambassador to Ukraine was ordered back to Washington in the middle of the night after being warned to watch her back. Her evidence on Capitol Hill, the first to be made public, telling the House she was targeted by the president's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani.
That smear campaign, orchestrated by this irregular channel, was successful in removing a U.S. ambassador.
In his July phone call with Ukraine's President, Donald Trump described Yovanovitch as bad news, adding she's going to go through some things. To that, she said she was shocked and very concerned. I still am. Asked, did you feel threatened? She replied, yes. Her colleague, European Ambassador Gordon Sondland, advising her, you need to go big or go home. Tweet out there that you support the president. Sondland's testimony is also expected to be made public tomorrow. 4 White House officials were due to appear but refused to testify today, citing orders from the president.
This will only further add to the body of evidence on a potential obstruction of Congress charge against the president.
As the Democrats circle the White House, the president insists
we're kicking their ass,
fending off the threat of impeachment as his former national security advisor awaits a court ruling on whether to testify. John Bolton telling Congress through his lawyer he has a story to tell, personal knowledge of relevant meetings and conversations that have not yet been discussed in testimonies thus far. Bolton, according to a new transcript, described the president's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, as a hand grenade as he pushed to trade military aid to Ukraine for political dirt.
I think the only crime here is the way they put this together. And you read that transcript, which I've read now about 20 times. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
The White House now bracing for impeachment hearings to go prime time from next week.
They shouldn't be having public hearings. This is a hoax.
His daughter at his defence.
This has been the experience that our administration and our family has been having. The interest in overturning the results of the 2016 election.
The stakes couldn't be higher for both parties heading into the 2020 race. Democrats with a possible new contender to take on Trump, fellow billionaire Michael Bloomberg.
I know Michael, he became just a nothing. There is nobody I'd rather run against than little Michael, that I can tell you.
Historic hearings on the future of a president.
This is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Democrats making their case against Donald Trump in public.
If this is not impeachable conduct, what is?
2 career diplomats detailed what they saw as the president pressuring Ukraine to investigate his political rival Joe Biden by freezing critical military aid.
To withhold that assistance for no good reason other than help with the political campaign made no sense. It was crazy.
He revealed the president was overheard on a phone call asking another ambassador about the investigations. And when asked what Trump thought about Ukraine,
Ambassador Sondland responded that President Trump cares more about the investigations of Biden.
Republicans called it all hearsay and a sham.
It's a televised theatrical performance.
What you heard did not happen.
The impeachment showdown. Bombshell testimony.
Proceedings filled American airways with millions tuning in. Donald Trump insists he wasn't one of them.
I haven't watched for 1 minute because I've been with the president, which is much more important as far as I'm concerned. This is a sham and shouldn't be allowed.
It may be day one, but both parties are adamant they know how this will end. What's crucial now is what impact these hearings will have on the minds of voters, with less than a year until they decide who they want running the White House. As for just the 3rd time in American history, the spectacle of possible impeachment plays out on live TV. For a 5th and likely final day, Democrats mounted their case, calling diplomat David Holmes, who says he overheard a phone conversation between the president and his European Union ambassador.
The president's voice was loud and recognizable.
Holmes says he heard Donald Trump ask whether Ukraine was willing to announce what he wanted, investigations into Joe Biden.
Ambassador Sondland replied that he's going to do it, adding that President Zelensky will do anything you ask him to do. Ambassador Sondland said he loves your ass, he'll do anything you want.
Donald Trump's former top Russia advisor testifying that demand was in exchange for a White House meeting. Fiona Hill recounting a July meeting with Ukraine officials, where Ambassador Gordon Sondland said he was working with the president's lawyer Rudy Giuliani to pressure Ukraine to do the investigations.
And I did say to him, Ambassador Sondland, Gordon, I think this is all going to blow up, and here we are.
With the hearings over, the next move will be up to the Democrats, who in the coming days will decide whether to move forward with a vote that will likely see Donald Trump become just the 3rd US president to be impeached.
It will be for us to decide whether those acts are compatible with the office of the presidency.
But it will be up to the Republican-dominated Senate to decide if he's guilty of them. The president tweeting his confidence, "You are dealing with human scum. We are winning big and they will soon be on our turf." Donald Trump with fighting words for the public.
It's a scam. It's something that shouldn't be allowed.
And a private meeting with his embattled lawyer Rudy Giuliani at the White House today as a congressional committee held a historic vote in favour of charges against him. Democrats, as expected,
Aye.
the president's party still unified.
No.
The House pressing ahead with impeachment articles over the president's call to Ukraine's leader, asking for an investigation into political rival Joe Biden.
For the third time in a little over a century and a half, the House Judiciary Committee has voted articles of impeachment against the president.
A full House vote set to take place next week will almost certainly see Donald Trump impeached. It's a title, a legacy he never wanted, but one he'll now look to use to his political advantage.
Fundraising for the Republican Party has gone through the roof. We're setting records. Nobody's ever seen anything like it because the people are disgusted.
Come next year, the Republican-controlled Senate will decide his fate in a trial, vowing
there's no chance the president's going to be removed from office.
Etched in the legacy of the 45th president.
Article 1 is adopted.
As the House impeached Donald Trump, he was centre stage on the warpath.
You are the ones interfering in America's elections. You are the ones subverting America's democracy.
Warning his opponents impeachment will backfire.
This lawless partisan impeachment is a political suicide march for the Democrat Party.
I could not be prouder or more inspired than by the moral courage of the House Democrats.
Democrats united after a marathon debate heated from the start.
Today's going to be a lot of things. What it is not is fair. What it is not is about the truth.
If we do not act now, we would be derelict in our duty. He gave us no choice.
The House still deeply divided over whether Donald Trump abused his power and obstructed Congress.
There was no bribery. There was no extortion.
He tried to cheat, and he got caught.
President accused of pressuring Ukraine to investigate political rival Joe Biden.
They could have a phone call and they get impeached.
Republicans losing both crucial votes, making Donald Trump only the third US president ever to be impeached, 150 years after Andrew Johnson, Bill Clinton's impeachment 21 years ago tomorrow. Like those who have gone before him, Donald Trump's expected to survive a trial in the Senate, meaning he won't be removed from office, but he will be the first impeached president, asking the American people for a second term. Tomorrow's front pages enshrined into history.
A very sad day to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States.
But for the Democrats, the battle's far from over. As Democrats signed over charges against him, Donald Trump was inking a trade deal with China. Truce in one war as another rages on Capitol Hill.
They have a hoax going on over there. Let's take care of it.
Articles of impeachment finally hand-delivered to the Senate, putting the president on trial.
He will be held accountable. He has been held accountable. He has been impeached. He's been impeached forever.
Announcing the team who will prosecute the case that Donald Trump abused his power in asking Ukraine to investigate his rival Joe Biden and demanding the Senate call additional witnesses.
We will see whether they conduct a fair trial and allow the witnesses or conduct a cover-up.
With the month-long impasse over, it'll now be up to 100 senators acting as the jury to decide whether to remove Donald Trump from office. But the president's already shaping his likely acquittal into a campaign war cry.
While we're creating jobs and killing terrorists, Democrats in Congress are wasting America's time with demented hoaxes and crazy witch hunts that have been going on, by the way, from the day I came down the escalator with our future First Lady.
Biden, in his pitch to voters today, conceding our only real shot to get Donald Trump out of office is at the ballot box. That vote still 10 months away. Three years to the day since he took the oath of office. President Donald Trump flies to Switzerland as his legal team prepares for battle. Laying out a 110-page defence, they claim charges of abuse of power and obstruction of Congress are an affront to the Constitution, a rigged process, a brazenly political act, arguing the allegations do not remotely approach the constitutional threshold for removing a president from office. A president they maintain did absolutely nothing wrong. Lawyers don't deny Donald Trump pressured Ukraine to investigate 2020 rival Joe Biden, but say he's within his rights to pursue corruption.
Abuse of power is not the criteria for impeachment, any more than dishonesty would be a criteria for impeachment.
The Republican-controlled Senate has set the rules for this trial, limiting each side's argument to 24 hours over 2 days. No vote yet, though, on whether witnesses can be called. If they are, these hearings could last for weeks.
Furious Democrats demand testimony, accusing Republican leadership of a cover-up.
He wants to rush this thing through so quickly because he's afraid of what the American people might hear.
This American will most certainly weigh in as the hearing begins.